Hey everyone, this is Brian with OBEDIA, and my friends at Lexicon Pro have asked me to take a look at their PCM Native Reverb plugin bundle. This is an awesome reverb plugin bundle which is available for both Mac and PC in RTAS, VST, and audio unit formats, so you should be able to make use of this in just about any digital audio workstation that you happen to be making use of at home or in your studio. Today I'm going to be talking about the Plate Reverb plugin inside of the PCM Native Reverb plugin bundle. You'll want to check out our videos on some of these other great plugins so that you can find out all about them and about how you can make use of them in your production. So I'm going to be playing some audio for you guys, telling you about the interface of the plugin, and of course letting you see how it sounds, and then telling you about some of the great features that make making use of these plugins really easy in your sessions. So that said, let's go ahead and dive in and talk about the Plate Reverb plugin. Now then, a plate reverb is a large, thin sheet of metal suspended upright under tension on springs. Transducers would typically be attached to that plate. They would transmit a signal that would make that plate vibrate, and that would cause sounds to appear to be occurring in a very large open space. This is very much the type of reverb that we're all very much used to hearing, especially in a number of classic rock recordings. This plate plugin mimics the sound of plate reverberators. It has a high initial diffusion and a relatively bright colored sound. So for that reason, it's very nice to use on percussion, and I'm actually going to be using this on some drums today. Plate reverbs, they're designed to be heard as part of the music, mellowing and thickening the initial sound itself. So they're not made to overtake the sound, they're just made to be a very nice gradual addition to whatever it is that we have recorded in our initial recording. Now, if I take a look at the left-hand side of the plugin, you're going to notice that I have the algorithm type that I'm currently working with. Clicking on it is going to give me some information about the plugin, the version I'm using, and various things like that. I'm also going to see in the center console right here exactly what algorithm I happen to be working with, but this is also my real-time display, which is going to be very useful in my mixing process, and I will talk about in a little bit here. On the top half of the plugin, I have my category pull-down menu, and here I have short plates, medium plates, and large plates. Each of these categories, depending on which one I select, is going to change the presets which I have available to me. Now, if I happen to save a user preset as well, I'm going to have an option here for user presets, and this is going to allow me to quickly and easily access my user presets, which is a great thing. If you have a number of user presets which you have created, it's nice to be able to quickly access those presets inside of the plugin. On the right-hand side here, I have my EQ. My EQ has 6 different settings which I can make choices of right here in my pull-down menu. This is going to allow me to decide what type of EQ I would like to apply to the current section that I happen to be editing. Inside of the plugin, you're also going to notice these early and late buttons right here. Clicking on the early button will cause for the EQ and the section that I'm editing to include reflections, direct echo outputs, and room patterns. Late will include the reverb tails. So depending on which of these options I choose and what settings and changes I happen to make, I will see those changes become apparent here in the graphical interface for the equalizer, and I can choose which section I would like to be editing by clicking on the early or late buttons in the EQ section right here. If I take a look at the left-hand side of the plugin, I have my input and output meters allowing me to meter the incoming and outgoing signal in my plugin, and then in the center I have my real-time display. Clicking on this allows me to switch between multiband, frequency, and impulse settings. So each of these is going to allow me to decide how it is that I would like to see a visual representation of the sound coming into the plugin. This really allows me to be able to mix a little bit with my eyes. Of course, my ears are always going to be my final, most important part of mixing, but it's very nice to have the option to be able to get a little bit of a visual representation as well, and I will show that to you guys in just a few moments here. Down on the bottom half of the plugin, we have our fader section. These faders are each labeled with a different label, which allows me to control a different section of the plugin. Moving each of these faders, of course, will allow me to dial in my mix just a little bit better and find exactly the sound that I happen to be looking for with respect to my overall plugins mix. Now, there are some other great features to access through the fader section here, and I'll tell you guys about those in just a few moments. First off, I know that you want to hear exactly what this plugin sounds like. So let's start off by bypassing it and playing my dry drum recording that I have here in Pro Tools. Now this is just an overhead microphone recording of a full drum kit. It's recorded relatively dry. Again, no major coloration of the signal, no hardware coming into the mix before it was finally recorded. So this is a very dry signal, which allows me to be very selective of the sound that I would like to have represented by my Plate Reverb plugin, which I have instantiated. So let's unbypass this plugin and let's start off with a short plate. And let's start off by making use of a small plate in the light setting. I'm going to immediately make use of one of my faders here, and I'm going to drag my mix down just a little bit because I don't necessarily want to leave my mix at 100% unless I'm looking to bring in this reverb strictly as an effect. It's nice to find a good mix between the dry and the wet signals of my reverb mix as I am working here. So let's see what this sounds like with this short plate selected. So again, I can really hear a lot of that plate reverb coming in the high frequencies right there. It sounds really nice on the snare as well, and I can definitely hear the difference when I bypass and unbypass the plugin and listen to it being added to these drums. Now, I'm also going to make use here of the real-time display by clicking on the real-time display. In this case, I'm going to select the multi-band real-time display, and let's choose another category. Let's go to medium plates. Let's try out a different medium plate right here. Let's try, let's say, the colored plate in the dark setting. Here we go. So I can really hear some coloration of the signal going on right there. And of course, you can see I'm already starting to make some changes to my pre-delay and my diffusion settings. All of these features, very quick and easy for me to make edits to by simply grabbing hold of one of these faders and moving it around as I'm listening to my sound. That real-time display in the center, also very useful for me being able to see how it is that I'm actually affecting the incoming signal. And this is very nice for those of you who like to mix a little bit with your eyes and a little bit with your ears. Let's go ahead and try out a large plate. Let's jump into a different section of our recording right here just so we can hear a little bit of variety. We'll try a large plate, and in this case, let's try something that we probably may not always put onto drums but could be kind of fun. Let's try a giant plate and see how that sounds. So you can really hear the difference in that large plate. Let's try out another large plate sound as well. Let's try the infinite plate and see how that sounds. Now again, guys, you can see the difference there in the infinite control for this plugin setting as well. If I have the infinite setting turned on, you can tell that that reverb is just going to continue going on and on and on and on. So this is much more an effect at that point, maybe not something that you would want to always make use of in your mix, but can be very, very fun depending on the type of instrumentation that you happen to be making use of. So you can see all of the different ways that I can bring in a number of different sounds and styles to my recording, making use of the categories and the presets here inside of the Plate Reverb plugin. So let's talk a little bit about the fader section of the Plate Reverb plugin, because this is one of my favorite parts about the Lexicon plugins. If we take a look at the bottom half here, of course, we have all of these different labels, which I mentioned before, and we've seen these labels change based on the preset that we happen to be making use of at the time. The reason for this is that each of our presets can actually be tuned in with these faders to be customized to exactly our specifications depending on how it is that we like to mix, making use of this Lexicon plugin. And the way that we do that is by making use of the soft row. We can access the soft row by clicking on the Edit button. And now you're going to notice immediately a number of different options which are available to me in tab format here on the bottom of the plugin. The first one of those being the soft row. Now the soft row allows me to dial in exactly what parameters I would like to control using these faders in the plugin. You're going to notice again that underneath the label, which I currently have active here on this fader, I have yet another label, but in this case, the yellow text, when clicked on, is going to access a pull-down menu. This pull-down menu is going to give me access to all of the different parameters which I can control inside of the plugin, and is going to allow me to dial in exactly how it is that I would like to control this plugin. So, if I wanted to, let's say, control the size of my reverb, I could simply click on size, and now I can easily change the size of my reverb control with respect to my plugin. I can also click on the compare button, and when I click on the compare button, the plugin is going to go into compare on mode. And this means that now I'm going to be able to compare back and forth between my different plugin preset settings and find exactly the type of setting that I would like to make use of inside of my plugin. If I find something I really like, I can click on the Store button, and I can enter a new name for this preset, and then I can save this preset in order to be able to get exactly what I need for later sessions. So this allows me to be able to quickly access all of these settings in other sessions and also in other digital audio workstations, because I have these roaming presets which will allow me to open those presets in any digital audio workstation that I happen to open my Lexicon plugin inside of. I also have a number of different parameters which I can control inside of the plugin, the first one being input and mix. This is fairly straightforward. This allows me to control the mix of the plugin, and right here I can also control things such as pre-delay, diffusion, shape, and spread. If I click on the reverb tab, this is going to allow me to actually control the reverb settings for this plugin. I can make changes with respect to size, which you'll remember I linked to in my software. I can change my reverb time. And I also have some different options available to me under some of these labels. In this case, with reverb time, I have the option for infinite. I can turn that on or turn it off, allowing for the reverb time to go on in an infinite nature or to not go on in an infinite nature. Also here you'll notice under the high cut setting, I can click and I can select the type of damping that I would like to make use of for that high cut setting. So this can be very useful for being able to tweak my sound exactly as I would like it to be. I can control a number of other features, of course, here in the reverb tab, all allowing me to be very specific about my sound and customize it exactly as I would like. Next, I have the reflections tab. This is going to allow me to actually change the reflection qualities of the plugin with respect to how it is that those reflections are going to actually color the sound that I am feeding into the plugin. And again, you're going to notice that I have these small options underneath some of these various parameters of the plugin, such as here I can change between absolute and tempo mode. You'll notice that immediately when I switch to tempo mode, I now have 30-second notes selected, but if I were to change my fader, you'll notice that this is going to change immediately to eighth notes, quarter triplets, and many other different options, really allowing me to dial in the timing of my plugin very specifically. I also have an option here underneath the gain for these reflection settings to go from normal to inverted settings. So very, very useful if you find that you need to invert your settings and dial in your reverb reflections just a little more directly. Finally, I have the Echoes tab, and this is going to allow me to more directly take control of the echo control inside of the plugin. Again, a number of different features available to me for some of these different parameters, depending on if they are available, such as absolute and tempo modes, and normal and inverted modes for gains. And of course, I have master control for my echo time, all allowing me to be very, very specific about the sound of my echoes coming out of my Plate Reverb plugin. That's just a quick overview of the Plate Reverb plugin by Lexicon Pro. In summary, let's just go over some of the great features one more time. Here in the top left-hand corner, we have our algorithm type, also going to be listed in our center console, of course, if we're not making use of our real-time display. In our category pull-down, we have access to all the different categories for our Plate Reverb, and all of these presets are going to change based on the category which we choose inside of the Plate Reverb plugin. We have our EQ right here on the right-hand side of the plugin, allowing us to choose the section that we would like to apply that EQ to, and of course make changes based on the 6 EQ settings available to us from the pull-down menu. In the far left center console, we have our input and output meters, and of course in the center we have our real-time display, allowing us to switch between multiband, frequency, and impulse settings, all very useful for being able to mix with our eyes as well as our ears. And then finally, in the bottom half of the plugin, we have our fader section. One of the most useful features, of course, being the soft row, which allows us to customize exactly how we would like our plugin to look and feel based on all of these different faders, which we can quickly gain access to and be able to make use of these quick features inside of our mix, depending on how it is that we happen to like mixing in our digital audio workstation. Of course, we have the option to compare these plugins, and finally, we can store any of these settings in our presets and have access to those user presets under our category selection pull down if we save a user preset. So there you go, guys. Quick overview of the Plate Reverb plugin by Lexicon Pro. It's part of the PCM Native Reverb plugin bundle. It's available for Mac and PC, and of course, you can get this in VST, RTAS, and audio unit format. Should be compatible with just about any digital audio workstation that you are making use of. So I hope that you guys found this useful and you start adding some great reverbs to your production very soon. Thank you so much for watching. Please check out our other videos on these awesome plugins, and until next time, happy music making to you guys. Take care.